The Rio de Janeiro launch in Upland set some record-breaking numbers. I mean, they were minting 54 properties per second, okay? They had a peak mint at one point of 3,320 properties being minted in a single minute. It's like the good old days all over again, right? We're getting these cities to start selling out. How exciting. Hey there, John Henry here, ssftg. Welcome to the video. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome my friend. I hope to earn your like and subscription today. Before we jump on in, it's almost the end of the month, so don't forget there's only a few more days to get your merch in for the month of July. Remember, 50% of all of our profits go towards our chosen autism charity of the month. With July focusing on the National Autism Association, and not only do you get to look incredible, because some of these designs are absolutely amazing. I'm actually getting some new ones in the mail today. I was really hoping that they were going to be here before I pressed record, but they're not here yet, so c'est la vie, right? That's just how it works. But these are absolutely incredible designs, and not only do you get to look amazing wearing these out, you get to help an absolutely amazing cause along the way. So if you want to grab your own merch, head on over to ssftg.live/merch and grab yours today. So, swinging on over and looking at Rio and what's going on. Like I said, I mean, Rio hit some records here. If you were trying to mint anything, you probably felt some of these records too, because man alive, it was not easy getting your hands on some properties during this minting phase. And if we do the math there, right, if they're minting, 50 something properties a second, that means that based on that math, they sold out Rio in about 15 minutes. That's crazy, right? Like, think about it. Rio was bringing 50,000 properties, and that didn't even include the extra 4,300 properties that they brought in with CDD. So we're talking some incredible stats here. I mean, this is big league stuff. So now that Rio sold out and everything's basically gone, what's next? Right, there was a heck of a lot of hype going into Rio, and I tell you what, there's probably a lot of people that still have a heck of a lot of UPIX still laying around. I know for me personally, I wasn't really able to sink my teeth in that heavily, and I was able to flip a few and cover the majority of the costs. But realistically, after a city launch, I'm only down about 100,000 from the start of it, and I'm holding a boatload of properties. So Rio in general sold out incredibly quickly, and even though it's a tier 4 city, it was super cheap. And that's the thing, right? It was so cheap. The majority of the properties were like 2,000, 3,000 UPIX. I don't know about the FSA, I can't mint those, but I saw most of them were between like 2,000 and 5,000. And even the big properties, when you came up to them thinking like, oh, here goes like 70, 80,000. No, they were like 20. It was really, really cool. And I think a lot of people might have kind of over pushed their bank account, if you will, into Rio, and they weren't able to unload everything in Rio because everything sold out so fast. So let's be Rio here for a second. I got it in there. We're taking a look at the stats page and looking at the total amount of properties. There's 57,901 properties in Rio de Janeiro. That's all of them. That includes FSAs and everything else. The floor price here is 11,299 UPIX. Now, again, remember, the initial mint on these properties were like, 2,000 to 5,000 on average. But like I said, here's the thing, right? It sold out so fast that a lot of folks weren't able to really dump their UPIX into it. So what do they dump their UPIX back into then, right? That's kind of the big thing. So when we're looking at the Rio market here, again, it's got 57,000 or so properties, and it's a city tier 4. The next comparable size neighborhood would be Manhattan, right? So if we take the stats page and we jump over to Manhattan, which is right there. The total number of properties in Manhattan was 41,596. The difference in pricing obviously is going to be because it's a tier 1 city versus a tier 4 city. But can we really say that people don't know Rio any more than they know Manhattan? I mean, pretty much everybody knows Rio, right? Of course they know Rio, Copacabana, and all these other ones. So the namesake, the value behind what's there, even though it is tier 4, is likely still going to pump up the price and inflate it a little bit. Now, if we take the value of these and we compare the overall quantity of properties compared to the value of the floor, right? If we go back to Rio and we look at the value of the floor in Rio compared to how many properties there are, this will give us a ratio, 57,901 divided by 11,299 UPIX. That's the base floor. That'll give us a ratio of 5.1244. That will give us our UPIX valuation ratio. That's what this city's valuation is at. But if we compare that to other tier 4 cities, we're going to find some really interesting stuff. Now, I actually went through and compiled the list up in the top right corner there, and that's going to go over the city valuation, or the UPEX valuation. Again, taking the total number of properties, dividing by the floor price, and that will give us our UPEX ratio value. In Brooklyn, in any of these, right, this is all tier 4, but what we're looking at is the lower the number, the better, right? That's showing you how much value is there. So Brooklyn coming in at 34.74 kind of sucks, right? That's really not that good. The value is okay, but for tier 4, it's the worst of the tier 4s. Looking at some of the other ones, Kansas City, 28.2818, which is a really cool number, by the way. That one's also not very good, where it's almost in the 30s. Not a very good value play. Oakland, a little bit better at 15.4616, but again, it's still even over 10. It's over 15, obviously. It's not very good. Now, other value plays, look at New Orleans, right? We've always known New Orleans has done really well. You almost never see New Orleans selling under mint, or if you do, they're gone pretty quickly. And the New Orleans valuation, look at it, 1.3162. It's a significantly higher value. Just like Cleveland, 1.2518, and it pains me to say that being from Michigan, but here comes the Ohio hate. The Rutherford side of things, look at Rutherford, 0.1081, right? It's not even 1, it's way below. So this gives you a really good clue as to where the valuation of a city comes in. These numbers are going to give us some really, really important information because, well, when we look at Rio's sitting at around 5.1244. I say about, and then proceeds to give a 4 decimal place accuracy. It's too low, right? For me personally, I think that 5.1244 is way too low for Rio. It's the first international launch. Right? I mean, look at, as an example, San Francisco, right? Let's look at San Francisco, and I know San Francisco is a tier 1. There's going to be a huge valuation difference, but San Francisco was the first generation or Genesis city within Upland, right? So if we look at the valuation here, they have 247,000 properties divided by 26,500 on the floor. That gives us a ratio of 5.63, right? So if we're talking Genesis city stats, Rio's there. It's at 5.1244. If anything, it might have gone a little bit too far. So if it is going to stay on par with that Genesis City mentality of being Genesis of International, then right about where it is now seems to be a fairly good value. But here's the thing though, right? Comparing this to some of the other tier 4s and looking at the hype behind the first international city launch and everything else going on with Rio, I don't see it landing at a 5 where it is now. I see this easily moving its way back down towards the lower band, towards maybe 2 or 3. But looking at those numbers, what does that mean in terms of pricing, a 2 or a 3? Okay, well, if that's the ratio, what is the floor price then? So if Rio were to stay put at a ratio of 5, right? We already know the ratio of 5 gives us a valuation floor at around 11,000 to 12,000, give or take. But let's say that moves a little bit lower to a ratio of 4. What would the floor price look like then? Well, that would look like around 14,500 UPEX for the floor. The floor is at 11,299, and we're only talking going from 5 to 4. But at ratios of 3, that puts the floor at 19,000. That's almost 100% higher than what it is now, and it's only at a 3. At 2, it's 29,000. And finally, at a ratio of 1, which should be pretty easy math, given that there's 57,901 properties, that gives us an anticipated ratio of 57,901 UPEX, right? Pretty easy. So the floor prices in this case, to me, I know, like, okay, I get it. Tier 4 city. That sucks, right? That's no fun to treasure hunt in a tier 4. I get it, whatever. But look at the hype behind it. It's the first international city. They've implemented international travel now, right? This is now the Genesis city of international, and even if it were to stay put, it's already at fair value. So this is a totally different ballgame than what we've seen in some of the other city launches. So yeah, again, I know tier 4 is kind of a bummer, but I do not see Rio standing at a ratio of 5. I think that is way too high. A ratio much closer to 2 or 3, I think, makes significantly more sense, which means that in the long, few weeks, possibly months, I'm looking at a floor of around 19,000 to 29,000 in Rio. And yes, I know, I was super curious too. I couldn't help myself. I also checked the valuation of my favorite spot in Upland, the Woodhood, of course, right? The Woodhood actually lands with 514 properties at a floor price of 90,000. This gives us a ratio of 0.0057. This is exactly why, when compared to something like Bel Air, I've already done the math on that one, has a ratio of 0.0238. Still incredibly good. But this is exactly why I've been focusing a lot, more so even, on nodes than even collections. Because the value is just incredible. The amount of value that they bring for a node comparative to a collection is just astronomical in terms of that increase. So in the upcoming weeks or even months, depending on how things launch or any of the new stuff with collections and everything that they've got going on, I think that the floor price in Rio will likely not drop as we've seen in other city releases after their initial release. If you're not familiar with new city releases, usually the first 2 weeks after the first launch of the city, the prices just depress everywhere except collections because everybody's dumping their ones that weren't collections for new collection pieces. Here's the thing though, there may be a little bit of that, sure, but I just don't see Rio staying at a 5. I think that it's going to get gobbled up like it's going out of style, and the prices I just don't think have matured enough to reflect that. It might take a few months to be fair, but I do believe that a ratio sitting at a 2 to 3 makes a lot more sense, and that's going to be my long-term objective for Rio, personally at least. This offers up an incredible opportunity because new players, well, they best hold on because if they got it, that's another 100%, even if it were to go to a 3 from a 5, right? And we're not even talking like the better bounds of this. Of course, this isn't investment advice, right? This is a game, right? Do your own due diligence before you put your UPX or USD anywhere. Common sense goes a long way. I hope this look at Rio and the predictions as to what the future may look like for it kind of helps out. If you haven't yet, make sure to swing over into the Woodhood Discord server. You don't have to own a property in the node to join the Discord server, although if you do, please make sure to let me know so I can get your name assigned as a nodeler so you can get all of the awesome perks that come along with it. Have a great rest of your day. I wish you all the best of luck on the collection releases next week on Rio, and until then, we will see you all in the metaverse. Thanks. Bye.